All right, hey traders, this is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Wednesday, February 20th. So we've got 2 more days of the end of the week, and a lot of choppy stuff going on in the S&P. However, there was a lot of movements going on. So within sectors, again, right? I mean, that's been kind of the story, going on. There's just been different areas, pockets of strength. I guess it was called back in, you know, December a rolling bear market. Now it seems like a rolling bull market again. We're just seeing some different areas of the market participate and have some momentum to them. So I'm going to go over those. We had the Fed minutes today, FOMC minutes. A couple statements. The market was really herky-jerky around the announcement. This was the first reaction was higher, and then we went lower. But it was really a bit of, one of those meetings, or not meetings, but just one of those exercises where you just have to exercise a little bit of restraint and see where the whipsaw ends up going. So you could have kind of, if you over traded a little bit today, you listen to some people on Twitter, and it seems like it's very dramatic. You got to watch this level. You got to watch this level. I think it was a really small range today. And if you have the value areas, if you have the value area indicator that we use, it really gives you a good sense of not to really kind of chase things and wait for the bar to close, but just a lot of chop in the S&P. So what did they say today? What were some of the takeaways? Uh, let's see if I can find a couple of them. But it sounds like they're just undetermined. I think going into the meeting, I think the expectations matter more. Sometimes I think everybody had their very dovish hat on, so I thought the risk was to the upside if they go ahead and they decide to kind of say that they do want to go back to a normal schedule of raising rates, right? That's going to cause the market to sell off. Did they come out and say that? No, not exactly. They're kind of wait and see. They're kind of leaving it open. But then one headline was like, "Hey, we're getting close to our inflation target." So, you just kind of have to wait and see. And then you had Fed Vice Chairman Clarida speaks and said that I don't think the Fed will make a U-turn. So I don't know. What I normally watch on days like this, when we have either Fed speak coming out or it's an actual Fed meeting, I watch the dollar. So you could look at UUP if you have Thinkorswim. The dollar was weak early on. The other thing that I've learned over time is really to not chase movements that we see, before either the Fed minutes or the actual FOMC decision. So for example, the dollar was a little bit weak. It ended flat on the day. Gold, was really well bid the last couple days. I don't really know the reason for that, but just following the price action, you could wind up in some nice momentum trades. But look at what gold did at the end of the day, and that was basically straight after the Fed spoke. So that did sell off pretty hard. After sorry, not it wasn't a Fed meeting. I keep saying this wrong. It was the minutes that came out. But look at what gold did. So gold gave back all those gains pretty quickly. Copper has been the main story the last couple days. This really didn't move too much. I mean, just kind of showing some really nice strength. So this is where I want to kind of get into what we saw with today's option activity. We hit a couple nice trades today. So off of option activity, which sometimes if I think that there's a really good trade, I'll take it. Where I think it really lines up for something that I want to see. So look at what copper's doing. Almost finished on the absolute highs. So really strong. I came into the day, and what I normally do is, what I think there's some interesting names. I provide a watch list. A couple of the names that some traders in the room got involved into yesterday was FCX. I had one trader sell it like right off the open, which was a really nice trade because I think they caught the highs. I like this chart a little bit better. SCCO. I mentioned this on Twitter last night. That everybody tends to watch FCX, right? That's the big name. I like to sometimes play names that are a little bit underfollowed, and this SCCO behaved a little bit different than FCX's, and some nice momentum to it. But the trade where we saw the option activity is another one of these natural resource names. And we jumped all over it today. This was Tech Resources. I got into some calls. They were April calls that went up. And they mentioned this on the Fast Money. But so the VPOCs, a lot of people ask me version point of controls because I put these on Twitter. I talk about them in the trading room a lot. How do you use these things, right? So when we saw these calls go up, right away I looked to see where there's pockets where there's been buyers and sellers that have met up before that we have not returned to, right? That's what a version point of control is, an area where there's a lot of volume. So what I did was I took one target here. I got into some the calls that hit the tape. They were and again, this was really nice because this is exactly what I was looking for, something in natural resources. So we saw these 24 calls go up for 64 cents and then for 77 cents. I got in, I think for around 75, I think it was. And here was my first target up here. And I peeled off, about a third of the order. And then, I peeled off a little bit more, I think, in here. And then my final target was right at that second version point of control. So they act like targets. And you could see that price briefly got a little bit above there, I think, when they mentioned it on the halftime show. But it just could not sustain higher. There is another one here on the 1 hour. So you might have a little bit more oomph to go, maybe to 23.50. So again, that's another volume area, high volume area that has not been touched. And again, you can see how these react. Price sometimes seeks them out, and then sometimes you see a reversion. But I like the fact that there was two stacked up one to another. So that was really nice. Apple, I did a little bit of, I went long Apple, just a little bit of it yesterday. It kind of got the fade, but I still think that this VPOC can be taken out right at 174. So something a little bit different. Again, really, really tightly coiled, which is why I haven't traded Apple in a long time. It did one of these fake outs last week too. I'm on the 1 hour chart, by the way, for Apple, but right around 174. Again, it's not that huge of a move, but I think it could get there. And I like when things are coiled. If you don't know what coiled means, it's when three, I believe the definition is, and maybe some people say it a little bit different than I do, but when three moving averages are kind of intertwined around one another. So on my charts, I've got the 50, I've got the 20, and the yellow line is the really short one, which is the 5 period. And look at how all of them are kind of meshed in together. Usually a big move happens, but this thing stalled for now. It did feel like a lot of, I'll go over more of today's option activity. Caterpillar was a big winner. This was up 3.3%. So just a little bit of repetitive activity in Caterpillar. It's a good name on option activity. But you could see a few different really short dated and sometimes the repeat, right? If they fly under the radar with 400, 300, 500 contracts, it could really kind of ignite a little bit. So, on the 1 hour, I'm on the 1 hour bar, but it actually came in to test the top of value area 135 and shot up $5. So that's a real nice move for calls, even if you caught them a little bit late. But it did feel like a lot of, trades that we haven't seen a lot of option activity in a while. There was also MLCO calls. I'm already in LVS, which is actually working out to be a really nice trade. I'm trying not to jinx it. Sometimes when I'm in trades, I don't like to really jump up and down until I take the trade off. But LVS, so another casino name. So this was just up a little bit, but I'm in stock, so I can afford to have this name grind higher. But I really like this chart. They had good earnings earlier in the week, and a name that's just over the 200-day moving average. So if I was in this, how would I play it? Well, I think it's interesting that they bought calls in it, so something appears to be going on in the name. It's behaving a little bit different. But what I would do is basically just go long stock. It's a $23 stock, and use the 200-day moving average as your stop. And who knows? Maybe you can get up to this version point of control. all the way up here at 29 bucks. But I won't go in this. I really don't want to double up in a casino name. So like I said, I've been in Las Vegas Sands now for a couple weeks, and it's been working out nicely. But I didn't really want to double up. If I hadn't been in LVS, I probably would have bought these today. A few other names. This EXP is interesting as well. This is Eagle. A couple material names. Now I know we saw some calls in this one. PWR Quanta Services. There's a Virgin point of control right in front of it, and I think they may have had earnings. I don't know if they reported tonight or if they report tomorrow, but that's another couple names. Also, this BHC. So again, a lot of names that I haven't seen too much. LYB, which is a chemical name. Saw some short dated calls. We could look at the chart of this. So sometimes it's good to kind of look at some of these and decide if you really want to get into them. I actually like this chart a lot. LYB, it already went through earnings. This I would probably use the top of value as my stop. So 87.42. And you got a lot of open road to the 200-day moving average. Maybe a target up here at this Virgin point of control, 92.80. I'll look at this trade tomorrow again because I am interested in some different names. I was waiting for the banks to kind of wake up a little bit. I got into some JP Morgan. We saw JP Morgan calls yesterday. They're actually starting to work a little bit. It's a slow mover right now, but I'm looking for basically a move up to the 200-day moving average, and that's where I'll take targets. A few other names, I mentioned over the weekend in the newsletter, which I really haven't done anything in this space yet, but I mentioned a lot of healthcare equipment names. XHE is the ETF in this space. It's getting a little bit overbought, but look at the difference between this ETF and XBI, which they bought a lot of puts in. Again, so this is kind of interesting. This is where it was on Friday. I think this got a lot of people interested, but you could actually get it for a little bit lower. I just didn't like all the puts that they were buying today, and I don't know if this could be often somebody's hedge. Maybe they were rolling out some trades in here, but there was 5,000 of these June puts that caught my eye. So again, could be a hedge versus somebody's biotech portfolio. You just don't know. But it's you have a chance where it's maybe a little bit lower than where it was Friday if you like biotech. I like that XHE better, and I like some names in this space, which is, again, this is all when I went over in the weekend newsletter. But ISRG, I think this ISRG gets back to highs. I just have a feeling there. Another one that I had in the newsletter the weekend newsletter was ABMD. ABMD, is that, or am I thinking of? Yeah, that's right. This one looks intriguing as well. It's been moving really, really slowly. The FANG stocks, what did they do today? I don't think that much. We'll start with Facebook. Facebook has been just giving back gains. It does have some support into the 20-day moving average. Do I really want to get long Facebook? I don't know. It seems like with Facebook, I think, which is I said yesterday, they just have too much noise in Facebook. Netflix, this thing just can't get going. It's happened now a couple days in a row where it looks like it's trying to bust out and it just stalls. And there was a little bit of call activity in this name too, but it just cannot get going. I saw somebody earlier. I don't know where these guys get this information from. I see, because I see stuff on Twitter, but I saw somebody talking about Netflix like, oh, the calls are up huge. I don't know where people get this nonsense. What calls were up huge? I think people just make up prices. I really do. And maybe in the first 5-minute bar, maybe it was up a little bit, but I honestly think some people, I won't say who it is on Twitter, but what the hell are these people talking about? Netflix calls up huge. People like to say this, and I think it draws people in when you say this stuff. I don't know. You'll never hear me do that nonsense. But anyway, there was a little bit. You got to have a little bit of fun with people on Twitter. I just don't know why they try to bring so much attention to themselves. Gold. This is an interesting one. So again, kind of, going back to what I said initially about not chasing things like gold and things that are really hooked into bonds as well because they move on both Fed days and Fed minutes days. But look at what they did in gold. Again, this is longer term. Now they bought a little bit of the short term stuff. I think the March 22nd calls. But look at what they did here. The September 14th calls they bought. Remember, this is now the Barrick Gold. This was ABX, but now they've had the merger and it's given some time. But this is something I might come around on. But they sold a lot of these September 13 puts. So this is a bullish risk reversal, and a lot of this stuff I don't like the candle for today. So I don't know. We'll see if this thing can get out of range. Because if it does get out of range, right? It's got there's a VPOC up here you could shoot for 1481. That's at least a buck up, which is decent. And then if it can manage to get through that 16. Let's see what this looks like on the weekly chart as well. So again, it's something a little bit different. Here's a good level. So if you want to give this a little bit more time, or at least, this is a weekly bar, but above 1380, it looks like, then you could basically shoot for this VPOC on a larger, longer time frame trade, and you could use those VPOCs on the daily chart. But that doesn't look bad to me. So that's intriguing. And again, at this point, seeing a lot of groups, getting a bit overbought. I'm kind of looking for some different things that I think are maybe a little bit less correlated to the overall, market. Interesting. We were looking at these yesterday, the weekly charts and the indices, and then I'll leave it here for the day. But you've got a little bit more that you could possibly get to. So I know everybody has different levels that they watch, but I really do like to pay attention to the weekly value areas. I think they give good signals. We kind of bounced last year from this on the S&P, but we're going to be hitting resistance in the S&P futures at 2816. So that might be a really good place considering we've basically gone up in a straight line. If you want SPY terms, it's going to look very similar. That's 280.94, so 280.94. And then if you look at IWM, that's kind of still in the middle of the value area, even though that's really getting overbought on the daily. What's the RSI? Yeah, we're starting to get pretty over 76 RSI. So really getting overbought for this. That's the one that's getting the most overbought. By the way, mid caps, as small caps are approaching that 200-day moving average. Not many people talk about the mid caps, but look at the mid caps. They're also overbought at this point, almost a 78 and over the 200-day moving average without a really blink of the eye there. Let me just go to the Qs, which I think outperformed a little bit today. Or no, maybe they didn't. They did in the beginning of the day and then gave it back. They had a little bit of volatility before the Fed, maybe a little bit of a sell program that washed its way through. Let's see where this is on the weekly chart. Yeah, I mean, it's got a little bit further to go, 176.16 on the Qs. All right, so that's some levels to watch. Last I said I would leave it here, but real nice play that we put on. I think was it yesterday? What's today? Yeah. Today's Wednesday. Look at this HIIQ. Finally doing what I was looking for. I've been stalking this name for a couple weeks and finally put this thing on. And look at the close in this name. Really nice close. So, whew. Beautiful looking close in HIIQ that we got into yesterday. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.